This update is powered by DART, Delaware's transit service. Moving forward.
What's up, everyone, and welcome inside DETV Sports. We are back, the crew here on a Monday. Matthew Maury joining me here at the desk, Dennis Pritchett behind the glass, and we are ready to talk everything that's gone on here in the world of sports in the last week, coming fresh off of our draft show last Monday. And now, Matthew, we are officially through all 7 rounds of the NFL draft. So we're going to get through all that today, decipher what each team did, what we like, what we didn't like, and then we'll get into the NBA playoffs, which have been fantastic TV here over the weekend. A lot of those series to get to coming down to the wire. So a great week in sports. And it's a great Monday to talk about it. Matthew, how are you doing here? Back ready to go here. Special shout out, thanks to Bill and Martin again for coming on last week and talking about the draft. And here we go, back the original crew back to talk about everything that's gone on here recently.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's been a whirlwind this whole weekend. I think everybody was glued to their TVs to see where Shedeur would go. And I just think that whole storyline just took the draft to heights I've never seen. I mean, this is the first time I had my grandmother calling me. I had people that I didn't even knew anything about.
I got a lot of text messages.
Yeah, what's going on? How's this happening? So, I mean, it was interesting, to say the least.
Yeah, it was. It certainly was. Shedeur Sanders being the main topic of discussion, who we're going to talk about here momentarily again, and we'll get through it. So let's just dive right in, and let's start with Shedeur Sanders, like everybody else has so far here today on Monday as we wrap up the entire weekend of the draft. When we went everything last week in the mock, we had him 21 to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I had when it came out on Thursday, and in the final one, also had him going 21 to the Steelers. Maybe that was wishful thinking. On the big board, I had him around, I believe, 20 on the big board in total, in terms of total players there, and he goes in the 5th round, I believe, 144th in the draft.
Crazy.
And again, Mel Kiper, who has been doing this for a long, long time. I know we all had Cam Ward as our number 1 quarterback, but I had him a little bit closer than others. Mel Kiper had Shedeur as his number 1 quarterback in the draft, and we all saw how his little meltdown over the weekend about Shedeur slipping and falling there. So we could talk a little bit about it. 5th round, he goes behind guys like, we thought maybe there was a 2 or 5% chance Tyler Shuck, who we talked about last week, maybe could sneak up on him. Jackson Dart, they were about 50-50. But Dylan Gabriel and some of these other, Jalen Milroe, some of these other guys that were drafted before him, Gabriel in the 3rd round, and Shedeur 2 rounds later in the 5th. So again, it came out that he was not prepared for a lot of these pre-draft meetings with the teams. They gave him some installs. He didn't look at it. He didn't come back, able to recognize some mistakes. They showed him some plays. And again, this is all speculation. We have no trusted source that said any of that is true, but that's kind of the rumors going around there. But regardless, 5th round for Shedeur Sanders. I want to get your initial reaction. I think it's absolutely insane. And again, kind of the talk out of the league is, hey, he's not as good as everybody thought he was or in the process. We don't know for sure. He hasn't played a snap in the NFL yet.
Right.
So we'll find out. But how surprising was this slide to you about Shedeur, and what do you think maybe the reason behind it could be?
I mean, it's monumental. I mean, I've been thinking of times. I mean, we saw Aaron Rodgers slide. We've seen other QB slide, but never seen a guy fall completely out of 4 rounds and waiting to the 5th round to get selected. A guy who I don't know anybody that didn't have a 1st round or early 2nd round grade on him. Even his detractors, the people that didn't like the tape as much, said they had a 2nd round grade on him. On this show, as you may or may not remember, I had Jackson Dart slightly ahead of Shedeur. I did think that Dart would take over a little bit in that number 2 spot. I still thought that Shedeur was going to be picked in that second half of the draft in the 1st round. Didn't happen. And it's interesting. The only thing I can describe it is, I don't know if anybody – one of my favorite movies is Draft Day with Kevin Costner.
Absolutely.
And in it, there's a quarterback, Bo Callahan, who he's the golden boy. Kevin Costner gets the 1st round pick, the number 1 pick overall, makes a trade. He then takes the guy he wanted to take in the beginning. And then when he does that, everybody else says, oh, wait a minute, I'm not taking, what's going on? They must know something. And I think that's what happened with Shedeur. I really do believe that when the Giants went in and grabbed Jackson Dart, when they grabbed him, then Pittsburgh said, I don't know about this, so we're going to skip that. There was a lot made of Tom Brady working out with Shedeur. They didn't go that route.
I was very surprised. I was disappointed in the Raiders. I thought they might have been the ones.
I thought so too, especially on day two.
Yeah, that's what to me. It was the Steelers and the Raiders. I thought were the two teams. I mean, we had heard the Saints like Jackson Dart. I wasn't too worried about them though. They needed a quarterback. They went with Tyler Shuck instead.
Yep.
But I thought it would be the Steelers. As you mentioned, and then the Raiders. I really thought they'd be interested down the half the stretch. I mean, there are so many teams that could use just a quarterback, even in terms of competition.
For sure.
To me, the Indianapolis Colts, so we talk about a bunch of different, with Anthony Richardson, they signed Daniel Jones in the offseason. Why not throw him into the mix? The Vikings have only J.J. McCarthy. Nobody else really on that roster. Why not throw him in the mix? It just didn't make a lot of sense to me.
No, it didn't make any sense. And then, when everybody kept saying taking somebody else, and then we see Milroe, Shaw, Shug, what's the other kid?
Dylan
Gabriel. When those guys started coming off the board ahead of Shedeur, I literally was like, I don't understand what's happening here. As much as, and look, if people want to debate the tape, and they might say, well, I didn't see anything from Shedeur, and I'll say this. I didn't think anybody in this quarterback class was phenomenal. This was not a phenomenal quarterback class. I think we talked about it in the last show.
That's right.
We said that Cam Ward probably wouldn't even have been a top 10 pick in last year's draft, same position, just because the positional value was a lot higher in that draft. It just, to me, this was such an oddball moment because out of all the positions that have such a high value, it's quarterback. And usually teams will forfeit what they perceive as the best player to get the best quarterback.
Titans did it, right?
Titans did it. I mean, I don't think anybody believes that Cam Ward is the number one player in the draft. I think they all believe it's either Abdul Carter or Hunter. And many people that I've talked to and many people that I've read don't even believe that Ward is the top 10 guy in the draft in terms of talent. So clearly it's positional value why he went number one. So to see somebody of such an esteemed positional value continue to fall through the draft was just something I never saw. Never.
It's going to be interesting. Again, all the lights will be on him. I think I read a statistic. It was like fifth-round quarterbacks drafted and beyond, or I think 143 in terms of being or winning the starting job, at least that offseason or going into the season. So we'll see what happens. Very interesting job there. Again, I would have liked to see him go anywhere else. I know Stefanski's going to be a great system for him there. The weather is going to be a little difficult. I know I'd like to see him have gone to a dome or something like that, but I think he's going to be able to do it. I think he'll have a chance at that starting job. There are only a few places where he'll have a chance to play in year one. Cleveland's going to be one of them.
Yep.
So when you look at it from that perspective, he still seemed very excited, being drafted. You saw the video there. And again, led the nation in completion percentage, broke the Colorado passing touchdown record. And again, it was not like he was playing in some of those conferences like we saw, Malik Willis or some of those guys, Kenny Pickett. And again, a couple years ago, ACC is a little bit different now than what we saw out of Cam Ward. But it was in the Big 12 against some talented defenses there. So, again, we'll see. And one of the biggest, split views you're going to find on a player in draft history. You either love him or you hate him.
Right.
So we'll see what happens going forward. But one bigger news was the Jacksonville Jaguars trading up to number 2 to get Travis Hunter, who they say is going to play definitely receiver, will also play cornerback for them both ways. They gave up a lot. They gave up the number 5 pick, a second-round pick, a fourth-round pick, and then a first-round pick next year as well. So they lose that extra first-round pick. That is the big one. So, again, new GM there, James Gladstone, youngest in the league, around, I believe, 36 years old. And he pulls the big move here to get Travis Hunter for the Jaguars. And I think I'm with him. I think if I was the Jaguars, I might have done the same thing. That's how high I am on Travis Hunter. What do you think of that move for Jacksonville? Again, a team that needed help on both sides of the ball. We sat here and said, man, they were thinking about taking a running back on Thursday. You're hearing that ahead of the draft, and you're like, man, how can the Jacksonville Jaguars take offense when they had the worst defense in the league last year?
Right.
There were a lot of Genty rumbles. Well, now they get both. They get an offensive player and a defensive player in Travis Hunter who can do it all. Had to give up, though, a lot to go get him at number 2.
They did, and this is a gamble. I don't care what anybody says. I mean, Travis Hunter is going to do something that we haven't seen since the Chuck Bednarik era with guys playing both ways. I don't know how much offense he's going to play. I mean, I'm sure he'll get sprinkles of some plays. I don't know how many snaps, he might be on a snap count. And this is going to be – I don't buy that he can do this his whole career. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I just don't buy it. I think there's so much that goes into playing NFL football physically. And to do a sport where you're getting hit and then you're providing some hitting, playing defense, I just think that's going to have a compound interest on his body. And eventually he's going to have to make a decision on what side of the ball he's going to want to play. But look, for the first few years, he's definitely going to play both sides. And then they also shored up in the third round. They grabbed a cornerback, and then they went out and they got a guard. So, day 1 and 2 were pretty good for them.
Yeah, I like what Jacksonville did as well. Got a linebacker there, and Jack Kaiser, who I like out of Notre Dame, and Bashal Tootin, the running back from Virginia Tech, is a player to look out for, too. They needed some running back help, ETN and Tank Bigsby. He will get in there and most likely get some touches there in the beginning of his early career there in Jacksonville. So I like what they did. Cleveland State put at 5. They took Mason Graham, the defensive tackle from Michigan. Genty goes to the Raiders. So the Raiders needed some help in a lot of areas. They decided to go running back Pete Carroll. Him and Marshawn Lynch, a very successful time together in Seattle. They're very very run-oriented during his time with the Seahawks. Right. They want to get back to that. Your thoughts on Ashton Genty going 6th to the Raiders? Do you think he could have initial success, even with a team that maybe doesn't have a lot of offensive weapons or maybe the best offensive line, but a hell of a runner in Genty?
I mean, Genty's phenomenal. I had a real chance to look at him. I mean, anytime you see a player get those kind of numbers outside of a typical Power 4 conference, you're kind of, I would say Power 5, but we all know that the Pac-12, although it's trying to make a comeback, it just you do raise your alarm a little bit. You do look, and I mean, he's phenomenal, especially after contact. He really knows how to extend plays. But as far as do they need a quarterback? Yeah, and then they didn't really address that. I mean, they went I think they got Cam Miller, which is, I mean, that's a decent pick, but I mean, North Dakota State kid. I mean, you're gonna have to wait on him. But really, I thought that they were going to address a quarterback in the first 3 rounds, and they didn't.
I kept waiting, and they were the one. I thought they were going to pull the trigger on Shedeur late. They had so many opportunities, like the Steelers, and they did not there. But they do get Genty. We'll see how he's able to do with that Raider offense. Geno Smith and company in year number 1. Let's talk now a little bit about one more team before we get into our favorite picks and then maybe our favorite drafts as a whole. But got to talk about the New York Giants. They were linked to Jackson Dart before the draft. Brian Daboll supposed to be his guy in Jackson Dart, the quarterback from Ole Miss. So they do. They take Abdul Carter, number 3, who we both had as one of the top 2 players in the draft. So they get that big pass rush stud there up front, and then they're able to trade back into the first round. The Texans at pick number 25, and then they get their guy. They get their quarterback, Jackson Dart. So the Giants, with those 2 players that they needed there in the first round, they come away with both of them. It's been a rough year since getting rid of Saquon Barkley. They've taken a lot of heat in the media, with the fans, you name it. It's been a rough year to be a Giant, and now they get these 2 guys here in the first round. Your thoughts on them being able to get both Abdul Carter and then trading back up and getting who you had as your number 2 quarterback in Jackson Dart?
Yeah, no, I love what they did, and I think the way they also piggybacked and came back around on that defensive side and got the kid from Toledo.
That's right, Darius Alexander.
Yeah, wow. I think that was a great pick. I think he'll go together well with Dexter Lawrence. He's not what I would call a dominant rusher. He's more of a jack of all trades, defensive tackle, run stuffer, can make the occasional plays, rushing the passer. But I think they did, and I love, and I'm going to say this right now, I think he's a steal in Scatterville.
I was going to bring him up next. How about those first 4 picks, right?
Yeah.
If you're a college football fan, you got to love those guys. Carter, Dart, Darius Alexander, who slips to the 3rd round at defensive tackle, and then you get Cam Scatterville in the 4th.
Yeah, I mean, you want to talk about a hard guy to bring down. I mean, he was probably the hardest in all of college football last year. I just think he's exactly what they're used to in New York. He's going to bring I think some memories of Jacobs a couple of years ago. Yeah. I mean, I think he's a great pick. I think they have to get an Ahmad Bradshaw to his Jacobs, which you don't have right now. But they kind of do. They have the young guy there.
Yeah, I like Tracy. I think him and Scatterbo and Tracy, that might be a nice one.
Might be a nice little one too.
I tell you, I like what the Giants did this year. in the draft. You got Joe Shane has been under a lot of pressure here with the Saquon deal. The Mara's giving him another year. The ownership group, the family, letting them play it out and then letting them do what they do. And it seems, as of right now, on paper, it looks good here in the draft for 2025. We'll see how it goes for the Giants. Another team I want to talk about is the Ravens. And again, I like what they did. They get Malachi Starks, who we had there in the first round. That would have been a perfect fit for them. He is a football player that's going to, he's a high IQ player, can bring the boom there on defense in the back end. They get him in the first round. They are kind of a match made in heaven. And then they're able to get, and this one we'll talk about, but Mike Green from Marshall, who I had as the 14th ranked prospect on my board, falls all the way to 59. And again, he's had the allegations. He talked about them at the combine, so we can talk about them openly if he's going to. Sexual assault in high school. Again, there's never been any convictions or arrests or anything like that. No evidence. These were allegations at the time. And then he was on a probation there at Virginia, had another incident there, so he left Virginia after he was suspended. But again, nothing coming out of all this. But he falls from 13 on my board. Again, we've seen him go high and low, but 59 to the Baltimore Ravens. I think they get an absolute steal in Mike Green, and they get Starks and Green. So I'm a big fan of what the Ravens did over the weekend.
Oh, no, me as well. I mean, I think the other team that I'm a huge fan on would be the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah.
I love what they did with Gray Zabel. He actually went a little higher than I thought teams were going to be bold enough to do, but, I mean, hats off to them. I think he gives phenomenal value. You have Emmanuel, who I think is probably one of the better athletes in the defensive back position. Arojo is probably most people's third best tight end, and then take that chance on Milroe. I like it. It would have been it had the best draft in the whole entire thing if they would have took Sanders.
I agree with you.
I would have took him over Milroe, but I do understand the logic with Milroe. To me, with Sanders on the board, I would have took him.
4.39 speed for Milroe that he ran at the combine or at his pro day. Unbelievable speed there. But again, you talked about the first 4 picks. I love all 4 of those picks. Zabel, really like him. I had him higher than even 18, and he goes there. Nick Amenwari, who slipped to them in the second round. A lot of people had him in a first-round grade. He's going to bring, you talked about it, he's big, athletic, had a heck of a testing there at the combine this year. And then Arroyo, again, he had a fantastic season catching passes from Cam Moore. He could end up being the best tight end potentially in the class. We don't know. So, again, Seattle had a very good week, and I agree with you there as well, and the Seahawks having themselves a nice day. I do like what the Patriots did as well, and Will Campbell, and I do love Travion Henderson. And then my favorite 2 picks of the first round, though, it's Omari and Hampton, who the Broncos don't take at 20.
Yeah.
He slips to the Chargers at 22, and that Jim Harbaugh, we're going to pound the football offense now. He's going to be a 1-2 punch with Najee Harris, who they signed in the offseason. I love Hampton going to the Chargers, and then Matthew Golden slipping to the Packers, who hadn't taken a receiver since 2002 in the first round, and they get Matthew Golden. So I was very excited to see that. Golden ended up being, I believe, Emeka Egbuka, who I really like as well, went ahead of him. I think he was the 3rd wide receiver taken in that first round. So I think he slipped. I think Green Bay gets a steal in Golden. Those are my 2 favorite picks of the first round, Golden to Green Bay and the Chargers at 22. So 22 and 23 for me. Matthew, did you have your favorite pick there of the first round? I do love what Jacksonville did as well with trading up for Travis Hunter.
I mean, I think my favorite pick is probably, the slam dunk. I think is probably Carter. Obviously,
You do the Jets,
I think
Carter
he was the best player available. I mean, best player. I had him as the number 1 player on the entire draft. So for the Giants to get him where they did. And then, the head scratcher since we're talking about Golden, is the Carolina Panthers. I think they reached for that kid from Arizona.
Yeah,
Again,
T-Mac.
I think he's got talent. I'm not saying he's a bust, but I just think when you have Matthew Golden there and you don't have to reach. You could have traded back a little bit if you wanted to maybe get some more value. And I always say this in the NBA draft is, if you know where the market is valuing guys, take advantage of the market. Trade back a little bit. Get some more picks. Get some more assets for yourself for the future. Take advantage of the ignorance of the marketplace. For me to go out there and say we're just going to pull a reach on a kid that may be a mid-round grade, and you take him in the first 10, it's like, he's got to be great now. He's got to be elite. And I'll say this: I love James Pierce. This was probably my least favorite pick in the whole entire draft. I love James Pierce. I think he's got good value. What the Atlanta Falcons traded to get him was a lot. And Pierce basically has to be a double-digit sack guy for them to see the payoff. I would have been much more comfortable with Pierce if he'd been in the second round. I probably would have picked the kid from Boston College and just sat there. I don't know why they had to move up as much as they did. But again, this is the NFL draft. Maybe their scouts thought that Pierce has a better long-term value. I just wouldn't make that. That was a lot of what they had to give up to move up and get Pierce.
Yeah, and that was after they had waited, sat at 15, and got Jalen Walker, who I had ranked in the top 8 there. So Walker slips to them at 15, so they get 2 pass rushers in the first round. As Matthew says, they trade back into the back end of that round 1, and they ended up getting, of course, as Mike said, James Pierce Jr. So you got James Pierce Jr., who, again, a lot of people are split on first-round grades, second-round grades, as you said, but you mentioned it, T-Mac, Tet McMillan. I know people that had him, very reliable people in the business that had him as their 50th prospect, but also others had him as their 5th. So one of the most polarizing guys here in this year's draft.
Sure.
Who knows what we're going to get? Again, with that size and athleticism, he has top 5 capability, talents there, but can he do it? He takes some plays off. Again, the speed was not there. He didn't run the 40 publicly. He ran it behind closed doors and then came out with the speed there. So, you got to kind of take it with a grain of salt. So it's an interesting process for Tet McMillan, and I'm very eager to see once the preseason starts how he gets involved early in Carolina. Carolina's got about 10 wide receivers now on the roster coming off of last year. So they took a couple more here in the draft over the weekend. So Carolina making some big moves. We'll see if Bryce Young will be that guy after a nice rebound season this year.
Were you surprised at all with – and I'm mentioning this team because I think they're a team that the Eagles will face. Mm-hmm. I was shocked that the Detroit Lions went defensive tackle. I thought maybe they definitely would want to get a pass rusher. I mean, when Aiden Hutchinson went down, that pretty much nerfed much of their ability to get at the quarterback.
I mean, their defense was horrible.
Yeah, and to me to not address that, to just go out and look, I'm not saying Williams doesn't have good positional value as a defensive tackle, but you had Pierce on the board, you had Ezeraku on the board. I would have took one of those guys.
Yep, I would have too. I agree. I would have went with Ezeraku. I know you like him from Boston College. 16.5 sacks, second in the country behind Mike Green at Boston College last year. Again, in an ACC, a competent conference there. Even passes the eye test too. And you watch him play. I do like Donovan Ezeraku. And again, Tyleik Williams, a guy that you rarely saw in the first round throughout the draft process. So it was a kind of reach. And Detroit and Brad Holmes, who is the Detroit general manager, they kind of now are to a point where they kind of think like they know best. And I don't want to say that they don't, because they're the ones that took Gibbs at number 12. And nobody had Gibbs. And then so they think at this point, and I'm not saying it's going to pay off. I wouldn't have done this. I wouldn't have taken Tyleik Williams. Yeah. But maybe they think they know better, and we'll find out here in a little while. I definitely went with Donovan Ezeraku or one of those other guys, and even Mike Green I thought would have been great, who fell 30 picks beyond this. Right. But I'm with you there. I would have went pass rusher. I mean, that defense, I think people don't remember how bad that defense was last year. I mean, Aaron Glenn ended up getting a head coaching job out of it. Yeah. I don't know how. I really don't. And again, Aaron Glenn seems like we'll see what happens with the Jets. I don't know what's going on there, but to have that bad of a defense, and I know they had a lot of injuries all season long. That's what people kind of chalk it up to. But you said it. Once Aiden Hutchinson was out for that team, and they couldn't get to the quarterback at all. And you can't win a Super Bowl. I mean, we sat here in the weeks, and I think, and you said it because of Jared Goff, and I said we both said they can't win the Super Bowl because I said the defense. You said Jared Goff. It ended up being both of those things, and they ended up falling short. So we'll see if they can change some things going forward. But they go defense, but they go with a random guy, not random guy. I don't want to say that. And Tyleik Williams, so again, second round grade on him, but he goes here at the back end of the first round, and we'll see if it pays off for Detroit, because they're going to need a lot of help on defense here coming into next year, especially when you lose Ben Johnson and even a little bit of that offensive mojo. We'll see what happens, because you're going to need to score some points, and you don't have Ben Johnson anymore to do it. So we'll see what happens.
And before we finish this off, we got to talk about the hometown team. Yes. I definitely think the Eagles. It was funny because when we sat there and we did the pre-draft show, the consensus was that Harry was going to move up. I thought he was going to move up.
Yeah, me too.
Obviously, he did what I talked about, which was he took a gamble on a guy who has long-term potential that they don't need the short-term immediate help from. I like Jahad Campbell. I like that pick a lot.
Talk about football player. He's sideline to sideline.
Yeah, I think that was a great pick by them. I think, Cameron Williams at Texas, I think to get him in the 6th round, I think he's going to be a guy that you're going to hear about. Kyle McCord, is
Philly kid or hometown kid.
Hometown kid. Great numbers at Syracuse. And of course, Mubako from Texas, the center. Safety.
Makuba,
good pick there. Ty Robinson. I like a lot of these guys that they picked
I like
there.
the first 3 guys especially.
Yeah, the way they just sat in and just let the draft fall to them the way they did. They didn't panic. They didn't try to move up. It seemed a lot more strategic from Howie that we're not used to seeing. So I think everybody thought they were going to move up, and I think Howie liked how the draft fell.
Yeah, and if you heard her talking about, they wanted Campbell from the start, and there was, again, Campbell 16 on my big board. There were some teams that had him going in the middle of the first round. I've seen some where he didn't get out of the top 20 picks.
Right.
Howie said they had tried, they had called for a bunch of teams, but as we talked about, none of those teams took those calls here this year, and he wasn't able to move up. But Martin said it here; he almost guaranteed that they would move up or down. And an article he published on Thursday, I said, I guarantee you they don't pick at 32. Well, at least I could say I was right. They picked a 31, so just one pick ahead of 32, and they get the all linebacker for Jahad Campbell. So last year we saw Zach Bond be one of the most important players, not only on the defense, but on that team. They signed him to that big extension for a linebacker. It's a lot of money to give, but he's an all-pro linebacker, and he was kind of the glue guy for that defense. So you get him, Nakobe Dean, battling injuries. He was fantastic before he got hurt down the stretch of that season last year, and some other guys stepped up in his absence. So they get Campbell, and now you're going to have a nice 3-linebacker rotation. We'll see if Nakobe Dean is as healthy. Maybe he's having some setbacks. He's gotten hurt a lot in his career. So I think this is kind of one of those picks where they want to make sure that they have another guy opposite of Vaughn. Exactly right. So and then again, you mentioned Andrew Makuba, 2nd round. I really liked him out of Texas. And Ty Robinson, those first 3 picks, I think Ty Robinson can be great at defensive tackle out of Nebraska. Big, strong guy, can get to the quarterback, help stop the run there as well. So I like what the Eagles did in the first 3 rounds there. Again, went a lot of defense here in this year's draft as they did a year ago because they lost a lot on defense in the offseason. So again, Campbell, the big pick here at 31, but Makuba, I think we're going to see a lot of him next year on the back end alongside Reed Blankenship now that CJGJ is gone and with the Houston Texans. So there's your kind of sum up of the NFL draft. Before we go though, Matthew, I got to get you 11, Mikel Williams from Georgia. Last year, he would have been the number 1 pick in the draft coming in. The stats weren't as great there this season, but he still showed on tape that he can be one of the best players. 6'5", 260, can get to the quarterback. I thought he even might have gone a little bit earlier, but I think that was a good range for him there at 11. What do you think?
Oh, I love that pick. We've been needing another pass rusher. I was really shocked by how San Francisco really went after defense. I mean, I think the first 5 picks were all defense, and we didn't really start hitting, the offensive side of the ball till the 4th and 5th round. So definitely we need it. I mean, we can't hold water right now defensively. I am very concerned, however, about we have not addressed the offensive line. I think the offensive line is still in shambles. I don't know if they even going to have. I mean, they drafted a guard, but I don't think we're going to see him. They're gonna have to hope that they can go out in free agency, maybe get a couple guys because that offensive line is still nasty.
And again, Purdy in contract negotiations coming. Will be a free agent there. They're looking to get that deal done. McCaffrey coming back off the injury. No more Jordan Mason, so Isaac Arendo behind him. Yeah, going to be an interesting year with no Debo. A different Niner team we're going to see. No Hufanga, Greenlaw. I mean, it's a lot of different guys there this year.
Yeah, and I feel bad because I just saw that Greenlaw has been injured again.
Right. We should definitely talk about that.
Yeah, and I mean, my heart goes out to that guy. I mean, he is such a great talent defensively, but the way that he's had to deal with injuries, I mean, it looks like he's going to be set back again. I don't think he's going to play this year. I mean, it's just terrible what he's dealing with. So,
yeah, again, and this was in a workout yesterday, just off-season random workout. So he's going to miss time, a quad injury. So again, prayers out to Greenlaw, and hopefully he's able to come back at some point in the near future, but has not had the best of luck there on the field for the 49ers, and then regardless of wherever he's been here as of late. So prayers up to him. Hope he heals well. And that's it, your NFL draft recap here. It was a fun 7 rounds, and because of the whole Shedeur thing, I mean, I've never been that locked in for 7 rounds of the NFL draft. So we'll see what happens, but that was the main kind of topic there in Shedeur Sanders' 5th round to the Cleveland Browns. So again, I'm excited for workouts, so voluntary workouts coming up now. He'll be there in a little bit in Cleveland, and then the preseason, late July, early August. So we'll see him on the field for the first time in a Browns uniform. Hate to see him go to Cleveland, but hopefully they can figure it out. That Stefanski system could be good for him. So we will keep it going there. But now let's hop to the NBA, and what a weekend it was in the association, man. It started on Friday with some big-time games there, carried over into Saturday and yesterday. A bunch of different news that we are going to have to talk about, and we're going to go through the entire bracket here. And just quickly, we're going to start with kind of the lesser news, and we will build up to kind of the bigger stuff. OKC and Memphis. Ja gets hurt 2 games ago there. OKC up 3-0 going back into Game 4 over the weekend. They were down, 27 in this game. They had the largest comeback in NBA history, and the Thunder complete the sweep. 4-0, Memphis done. OKC advancing. Obviously, we both saw that coming there. Thunder, impressive there in that first round series. Thoughts on the Thunder initially, and more so, though, Memphis. Ja gets hurt. You got Jaren Jackson. He's going to be due for a big contract here this offseason. Desmond Bane, John Morant, and Jaren Jackson Jr., kind of that core, been together now for 5 years. 1 playoff series win. Memphis speaking after in ownership saying, we're not close. And general manager coming out and saying that. What do you think about Memphis now? Where do you go if you're the Grizzlies? 3 years ago, they were the 2 seed in the West, and we thought sky was the limit. They were title contenders then. Here we are a couple years later, and they're getting swept in the first round and not really on paper even close to being a championship contender. What do you think?
I mean, the problem that Memphis has is I don't think Desmond Bane is a true number 3. I don't think, I don't think other than Ja, I don't think they have another real.
They're going to have to make some moves.
Headliner. I mean, Desmond Bane, again, all credit goes to Desmond Bane for the career he's been able to put himself through. But he's kind of like Cuttino Mobley, where talented scorer, great guy to have on your team, but to count on him to be like a Klay Thompson or a guy that you can pencil in 20 and not have to worry about it, that's not the same thing. To me, he's more of an energizer guy. He's a guy like Eddie House, Cuttino Mobley.
Like sort of 6-man material?
Right. I don't think he's a real guy that you could win a significant series with being your number 2 guy. And right now, he is the number 2 guy. And Jaren Jackson, he's really a small forward who's pretending to play power forward. He rebounds barely at all. Great on the defensive side, doesn't give you much rebounds. I would say he's a sporadic shot maker. I think they're going to have to move him. I think they're going to have to move Desmond Bane. I think the only real tangible asset they have right now is probably Ja, and that's because I think if they tried to move Ja, I don't think they're going to get real value for him the way that they would have a couple years ago. I mean, and the other thing too about Ja, and we've seen this happen with other NBA talents throughout the years. Ja's got to get to a point where he understands that, he is reaching that critical mass where 10, 20 years later, we don't talk about him the way we do Derek Coleman, the way we do other players who had all this talent coming in. Things happen off the court, things happen personally, and then they don't ascend to the prestige that we thought that they were going to be. So Ja is in full control of his legacy, and he's really got to hone in on it because time is ticking. And as he can see with his friend in AAU, Zion Williamson, he's in a precarious situation now. I mean, to think that those two came into that draft as 1 and 2.
And then R.J. Barrett at 3.
And literally right now, we don't know if those guys are really the future of the NBA. We just maybe. I mean, they don't look like they're perennial all-stars. They don't look like they're Jason Tatum. They don't look like they're on that level of those other guys. We see flashes, but I don't see these guys becoming perennial franchise players. It's a little sad, honestly, because so much promise was given and now it's just not happening.
And just, to your point and talking about Ja, he had a quote after the sweep.
Yeah.
Speaking with the court reporters, you probably heard it. And here it starts with like this, and this is a quote. I had them figured out. If I was playing and not injured, this would be 2-2 on the way back to Oklahoma City, end quote. So do you think he's a little delusional there?
Yeah.
So he says if he didn't get hurt, this is a 2-2 series. He had the Thunder figured out, one of the best teams metrically wise that we've seen in NBA history. He had him figured out, Matthew. What are we talking about? I mean, if he's hurt, who knows? Maybe the Grizzlies pull this series
come on, bro.
out. So again, Ja, we love you. Let's try to figure it out. But the last couple of years have, just as you said, they've been just tough.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Zion Williamson. Who's had the more rough go around out of those two?
Zion for sure.
It's close too, though.
It's very close. It's very
you're
close.
right. When you think about that, that is just brutal.
Yeah, I mean, Zion Williams, we're looking at, if we're being honest, we're looking at Derek Coleman and Penny Hardaway. Ja's got Penny Hardaway ability, and Zion's got Derek Coleman ability. And we're at a situation where I don't know if they're ever going to get to that level.
If you had to pick one, who figures it out, and they both may not figure it out, and maybe there's a better percentage that they both don't figure it out than that they both do. But if you had to pick one that might have a better chance at figuring out and becoming a sustainable, high leverage player in the NBA, who would you go with?
All right, my money would be on Ja.
I think I'm with you. That's crazy. That's
crazy
to say. It is.
Yeah.
It really
I mean,
is.
I don't think Zion has the ability to control his impulses off the court and, diet, exercise, these things that he has to do. I mean, he just continues to put on weight, and the way that he plays, it's eventually going to catch up to you.
And you heard Charles Barkley talks about it all the time. He said if he didn't have Moses Malone to kick him in the ass, who knows what would happen, going forward there. So we'll see if someone can kick Zion in his behind, see if he can get going there. So that's the Thunder 4-0 sweep over Memphis, kind of what we expected. They've been one of the two best teams all season long in the regular season. So the Thunder advance, and we'll keep it going now with some of the lesser action here. Boston 3-1, not much to talk about this series. Paolo, though, has been fantastic for the Magic. I mean, he really has against this Boston team. They've already taken the one game. I think we kind of had him 4-1 or a sweep, but they're able to get one.
Here's what's crazy.
Would
you say that Paolo has surpass Zion?
Yes.
Yeah.
I do.
And that was not on my bingo card.
It was not. Ja, too. I think he might have passed Ja. I mean, he's been fantastic for a Magic team.
Yeah.
Like, if you were to put either of those guys on the Magic, I don't think they would do near what Paolo and them has done this year.
Paolo's been a man. He's looking like so good.
Yeah, I mean, he looks like all NBA type player. Kind of like what we saw at Cade Cunningham here this year as well. Speaking of which, let's dive in to the Pistons. Not much to say here on Boston. I think they'll wrap this thing up tonight and advance there. But for the Magic to even take a game, they get one of them at home, a big step for Paolo and company there in just a year where they actually made the playoffs for the first time in some time, though. Detroit and New York battling. This series has been back and forth in each one of these games. After yesterday, the Knicks pull out a narrow victory, so they take a 3-1 series lead. But this one coming down the wire, we'll see if Dennis has the clip here. Cade Cunningham missing an open mid-range jumper down the stretch, but Detroit getting an opportunity with a 3 at the buzzer for Tim Hardaway Jr. in the corner. Josh Hart made contact with him. No foul was called. Rebound to the Knicks. They win the game. 2-minute report comes out. David Guthrie, who is the official in the corner, in the 2-minute report, comes out and acknowledges that it was a foul and it should have been called in the game. Bumped him a little bit in the corner. I believe we'll have it here coming up. This is how it down. There's Karl Anthony Towns with some huge baskets down the stretch. I know we're not big fans of Cat here on the program, but he came up big for them down the stretch in this game. And then Cade Cunningham also big for the Pistons throughout this series. What a regular season he has had. I mean, without him, they would not even be competitive here against the Knicks. But this one coming down to the wire. Jalen Brunson leaving this game with an ankle injury, was able to return. It was good to see that, as again, they would go on to take a 3-1 series lead. We're going to see the foul here in a few moments. But for me, you get that in the corner. It's a playoff game in real time. I don't know if I would have made that foul call either. It's a playoff game. It's a tough situation to be an official in a game like this, as you see the Pistons are going to have an opportunity. Brunson blowing the layup here kind of gave the Pistons a chance, as you're going to see them come down the floor. But what do you think about the call in this game? You're going to see it here in a moment. Do you make a call? If you're the official, it's coming down the wire. It's a playoff game in Detroit. As you're going to see it, here's the shot. Cade, good look. He couldn't come up with it. He's got to make that shot, you would imagine. Yeah. Here it is, loose ball, and then here is the foul in the corner. Hardaway lets it go. You're going to see the contact late. J.B. Bickerstaff had to be held back from going at the officials here after the game. He was furious, looking for Guthrie, trying to get out there. You see Thibodeau kind of just get out of the way. He was minding his own business. And the Knicks are able to wrap this up, and we'll hopefully get a cleaner look here on the last play. Here it is on the far side. A great look for Cunningham. This is what he wants here, a mid-range jumper. Right. Shot, though, wouldn't go. He missed 2 of those big shots like that. And then a little bump in the corner from Josh Hart. So we talked about it now for about a minute and a half. Your thoughts? Do you make that call in a playoff game like that down the stretch?
I mean, it's one of those plays I can't really criticize it either way. I understand it if it got called. I understand if it doesn't get called.
I think that's how I feel too. But
right.
I mean, in real time, as an official, I think that's a tough call to make.
It is.
It
really is.
In a playoff game down the stretch like that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Detroit, obviously you want that call.
Those fans aren't happy.
No, and they have every right to not be happy.
And I think it's even worse, right, Matthew, when the NBA comes out and admits that they were wrong and that it should have been a foul.
Correct.
Like, how do you feel about that? And let me ask you that. Are you one for the 2-minute reports here? They think it brings clarification. They've been doing that. I forget when this was introduced years ago.
Yeah.
But I think the only thing it causes is headaches. Because they come back and they tell you that they messed up a lot of the time, especially in the playoffs. We saw this last year in a few situations down the stretch. We're going to talk about another one with the Lakers here momentarily. Yeah. But they come out and they say, hey, sorry, it should have been a foul, but there's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the 2-minute report, I've seen people.
Does it bring clarity? Like, do you like it being a thing?
I like it being a thing because I think it prevents conspiracies.
Yeah.
I think, unfortunately, we're in a day and age where conspiracies are rampant.
That's true.
And, like if the 2-minute report doesn't come out, somebody will say, well, the NBA wants this to happen because they don't want Detroit to advance because the better market is New York. Yeah. So, obviously, them saying, well, look, our official blew the call.
Yep. Man. Again, Detroit fans, the players have not been happy with that. They'd come out and they said they blew the call. And again, so what do you think? I know it's a tough choice there. Again, wouldn't have made the call in real time. Yeah. But I guess there's not much else really to say.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it was that egregious to make it. Yeah. I mean, on some level, this is why I tell people too. On some level, this is kind of what we want, though. We want physical play in the playoffs.
That's what Bickerstaff asked for. I interviewed him after the other game, and he said, hey, I hope they keep calling it this way because we're better defensive team. We like to play that physical. So, again, when you come out and say something like that, it makes it a little bit tougher to argue it down the stretch. But again, a tough play nonetheless for Detroit.
Yeah, for sure.
And again, the Knicks, though, they take a 3-1 series lead, so the Pistons are going to have to really battle back if they want to take this series and advance to the next round. So the Knicks looking like, again, on paper that they have a leg up. We're going to see the Knicks and Boston in the second round here of the NBA. Potentially, that's what it's looking like. We'll talk about that, though, when we get there here on next week's show, potentially. And now it's time into Indiana and Milwaukee, and we're going to have to start prayers up to Damian Lillard. Torn Achilles. And at this point, again, battling all the way back from the blood clot. Finally gets cleared for Game 2 here a few games ago. Plays through Game 2. And, again, just 6 minutes here in this one before he tore his Achilles. It was confirmed earlier this afternoon. Shams Charania reporting it is, in fact, a torn Achilles for Damian Lillard. Obviously, we'll miss this year. And, Matthew, the way it's looking now, it's almost the entire next year as well. So for a player his age, and I know, and again, you're not Damian Lillard's biggest fan in terms of him being a top 75 player, et cetera. But it's going to be tough for him right now if you're just looking at it from a career perspective. A guy in his 30s, mid-30s like this, tearing his Achilles, coming off a few injuries here. There's a chance that we don't see the Damian Lillard that we're used to seeing. Not saying that we saw him even this year, but this could be a career-threatening injury.
Oh, yeah, I think whatever Damian Lillard was to you, if you thought he was elite, if you thought he was one of the best, forget how I feel about him. I think that this is the last that we're ever going to see of Damian Lillard being the guy.
Yeah, you see him go down there, and he knew immediately. He just stayed on the floor for the next couple, minute or so as this ball went down to the other side, and he knew it, and as you said, this could be it for Damian Lillard. And now just to look at it from a Bucks perspective, which I think is important here, give up a lot to get him a few years ago to pair him, with Giannis. Hasn't gone as planned there in the last couple years, and again, brutal here to see for Lillard.
Tough.
But now Giannis' contract is coming up. He can be a free agent. Damian Lillard is going to miss the entirety of next season. The Bucks are in the luxury tax. they're not close to competing either. I mean, they're in a horrible situation. The more and more as you hear those words come out of my mouth, nothing is adding up that's a good thing for Milwaukee. So Giannis, again, time's ticking there. He's been reported over the years maybe, wanting to get out of there. Then they won that championship. They kept him in 2019. But since then, hasn't been a pretty run. No. Lillard, going to be gone all of next year. He's still on the books for a lot of money in Milwaukee. He's not even going to be able to play. And you saw in this series here, Giannis was by far the best player on the floor out of both teams. But Indiana's by far the better team, and they're leading 3-1. So Giannis with no help, this is what we're going to get, a 3-1 deficit in round one. So now, Matthew, you look to next year. No Lillard, Giannis is what it is, but nobody else on that roster is really going to be able to compete, and they're in the luxury tax. What do you do if you're Milwaukee and Giannis? Because now there's rumors of Giannis, they're not going to be competitive next year without Lillard and all that money on the books. Is he out of there? We've seen the last of Giannis in Milwaukee.
Yeah, he's gone. He's gone.
And that's crazy. That hasn't really been talked about now, but he could be done in Milwaukee.
Yeah, he was almost
if he wants to compete.
Yeah, I think he would have been gone if they never won.
I do too.
Yeah, I don't buy the whole, because here's the funny thing. A lot of people feel because these guys are overseas guys that they have a different morality system than Americans do. They love to act like that's the case. Let me tell you something. Giannis is not staying. He's going to go. He's going to leave. And the reason is because this is a situation where Milwaukee is a purgatory of some sort.
I mean, it's looking bleak.
It's looking really bad. It's like if they don't draft a guy and they don't trade for a guy, there's a rare that they're going to get a player to come in there. So, yeah, I feel bad for Damian Lillard. I feel bad for obviously Giannis, but I think he's going to go. I think he'll do something. I'm sure his team will craft something together.
I think that's it.
Yeah,
I think he's going. He's going to have to, in my opinion, again, a contract for a year or two. Then he's unrestricted. I think next year he's going to maybe. And we've been waiting for Lillard, right? Lillard finally did it after years and years.
Yeah.
This might be the time. Giannis says, "Hey, Milwaukee, I need to get out of here. Let's see
what
you can get for me."
And Milwaukee, if they're being fair, he doesn't owe them anything.
No, they got the banner. They hung the banner.
The banner, and obviously, as your point, they're so far behind the luxury tax. So the thing they need is young players and picks, and trading him would do that for them.
Lillard and Giannis, I think if you look at the books for just next season, they'll be making just combined close to $100 million between just Giannis and Lillard. Giannis is due $55 million next year, and I know Lillard's up over 35 to 40. I think he maybe even into $50 million. I mean, it's tough for Milwaukee. But again, like you said, though, if you're the Bucks, you hung that banner. So when you think about it, you got that ring, so you can't be too upset about it. But for the next however many years, and you talk about it, since when they traded Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, we all said there before, when they made that deal, they didn't go back to the finals for 50 years after that. So if they get rid of Giannis, could we see another 50-year drought in Milwaukee? Players like that don't come to Milwaukee often. It's not a great situation, but you got the ring. So be happy with that, but might be another 45 years of misery over in Milwaukee. They're probably going to be out of this thing this week. Indiana looking to advance, where they will meet the Cleveland Cavaliers, who have a 3-0 lead over Miami. They're going to sweep things up. They didn't even need Darius Garland, who was out with a toe injury. They win by 40. They have been looking. They went with the big lineup here over the weekend, Mobley and Allen and those boys, and without him, Dean Wade played a lot, DeAndre Hunter, and they just blew the doors off of the Heat. Cleveland has looked really good. Cleveland, Indiana is going to be a fun series, Matthew. I like Cleveland, and we'll see how you feel there. But Indiana's been playing very well here against, albeit it's Milwaukee. So we'll see how they look against a real team in Cleveland. But Cleveland has looked fantastic. What do you think about the outlook for the Cavs here on the postseason?
I think the Cavs are going to smoke them, honestly.
Indiana?
Yeah. I mean, I think Pascal does really well in certain matchups. Getting Mobley is not a great matchup for him. I mean, Mobley has the ability to see. Pascal likes to create mismatches using his movement and shooting. Mobley can match him step by step, so that's going to be difficult. And if he happens to get past Mobley, then he has to deal with Jared Allen. So it's just a very difficult matchup for them.
Cleveland's got a well-built roster. That's
a fact.
They and OKC have been like machines. so far this year. We were wondering if it was going to continue in the playoffs. We expected in round 1, but now once we get into round 2, we'll see how good these teams really are. And again, I expect Cleveland to advance through Indiana as well. We'll have Boston and New York. The Knicks have any chance? And again, these are hypotheticals. These teams are all leading 3-1. We rarely see 3-1 comebacks. So what do you think about New York and Boston?
I still have Boston winning that.
You think the Knicks can give them a fight? I mean, the Knicks have no love in Vegas coming into the playoffs.
Yeah.
No love on the outside about having really any chance to win a title. Brunson's been the best clutch time basketball player in the league in the playoffs the last couple of years. They get Towns who hit some big shots, but obviously we know what his playoff track record can be. Can they force Boston into some trouble here? Can they get them to 7 games?
No.
No.
Maybe 6 if they can get hot.
It's gonna be, I would love to see the Knicks take Boston to 7. I don't think it'll happen. I agree with you.
Yeah.
But I would love to see that. And again, we'll see if – and to your point, New York's got to put Detroit away 4-1 so they can get that rest. Brunson's banged up. Get those. They don't play a lot of guys, not very deep after the trade. So they got to get that rest in. They got to finish off Detroit early. And then if you're the Magic, maybe the Magic can take another game and force Boston into a little bit more, wear them down a little bit. I don't think it'll happen, but maybe New York could take them to 7 if that were to go. But I'm going to go with Boston as well in that one. OKC, and now we got to talk about this one because this one could go either way. Denver and the Clippers. What a series that has been. Kawhi looks like Toronto and San Antonio. Kawhi, Harden's playing well, but Jokic could be the best player on the floor. We had buzzer beater, and this was one I had to rewatch this 10 times just in slow-mo just to make sure it counted. If we can get the buzzer beater, Jokic shooting up an air ball at the buzzer, Aaron Gordon coming up, dunking it through to tie the series here at 2-2. So if this doesn't happen, the Clippers are up 3-1. Instead, it is a dunk here at the buzzer. You see the shot. Oh, man, and we're seeing the slow-mo. I mean, that is one of the closest I've ever seen. This was on the road for the Nuggets and could be a playoff series saving basket for Aaron Gordon and Denver, who win this one at the buzzer to even up the series 2-2. Kawhi's been great. Jokic has been great. This series has been so close back and forth. They already have an overtime game there, but I mean, check this out. 0.1, like it just, they're saying it just got out of his hands as the light went off. So I think we were split when we picked this series before. But, man, this has been the most fun series to watch of the first round. What have you seen out of Denver and L.A., and how do you see this one finishing up?
I think L.A. is going to get them. I really do. I think this matchup is very hard for them because they don't have the perimeter defense to keep up with Kawhi, to keep up with Harden. I think even Powell has been playing exceptional. And then the guy that no one's been talking about is Zubac. We don't talk about him at all, but I mean, he's probably a top 10 center in the league, and he's more than held his own.
And we think about years ago, Magic trading him from the Lakers to the Clippers, and he called him a product of Lonzo Ball back when he played initially with the Lakers that rookie year. And really, that's he's been great for the Clippers the last couple of years, in that deal since being a Clipper for now, I forget, probably 5 or so years. Since then, he's been great. Like you said, Kawhi has been great. And I think I'm with you. I'm going to go with the Clippers to win the series. I think that's who I started with. I'm going to finish with them as well here. But, man, this has been probably the most fun series to watch in round number 1. And then that'll take us to the Lakers and the Timberwolves. And how about this? I know you had the Timberwolves here in this series. And they now lead 3-1. Anthony Edwards has been the best player on the floor throughout the first 4 games of it. J.J. Redick doing something unheard of yesterday, and we'll see if we can get the play. I want to get your opinion on both. He played all the same 5 guys for the entire second half. Hasn't been done. I think they said the last time it was done was like 1980. He played didn't make a substitution in the second half. In a game 4 of a 7-game series, when you have a quick turnaround with the oldest player in the league, LeBron James. Maybe on paper doesn't necessarily or make a lot of sense. And then you talk to J.J. Redick, and he's saying, hey, if we don't win this game, we're pretty much done going down 3-1. Anyway, we had to leave it all out there. Your thoughts on him playing the same lineup for the final, whatever it was, 24 minutes of the game, not making any substitutions the entire second half, and then them still having a tough loss down the stretch, an overturn of a challenge on a rule that they changed last year with the Timberwolves. It was a reach-in foul. Last year, you couldn't go back and look at it being a foul. You could just look and see who it was off of, and it would, and you could determine who the ball would go to. After that playoff series with Timberwolves last year, they changed the rule in the offseason, so now they can make it a foul, and they did just that. LeBron slapping it out of Anthony Edwards' hands. It goes out of bounds. It was Lakers ball with a chance to win the game. Instead, they go back. They call it a foul. They give Anthony Edwards free throws, and that seals pretty much the deal for the Timberwolves. You're also going to see Luka Doncic go down at half court, bringing the ball up earlier in this sequence. J.J. Redick freaking out after the game, saying that was a trip. He should have been shooting free throws. Other people are blaming it on the fact that Luka is a little out of shape and that he was tired after not sitting the entire second half, and then he went down at half court due to that reason as well. Lots of stuff. So there's the foul call, Matthew. You can see it on the TV. They went back, they looked into this, and they went back and called it a foul. So in real time, it was off of Anthony Edwards, Lakers ball. The Lakers then called their last timeout of the game. And then while they're doing the timeout, the Timberwolves say, hey, we want to challenge. So the Lakers took a timeout. The Timberwolves took that opportunity to challenge. And then the Lakers didn't get the timeout back. They had to go the rest of the game without a timeout as well. So your thoughts on them going back and reviewing this, because this is the first time we've seen it being done since the rule change where you can go back and call it a foul on the floor. So they did just that. I didn't think it was even a foul in real time. They go back, they review it, and that kind of sunk the ship here as the Lakers go down 3-1. They are in quite the hole now against Minnesota, and Anthony Edwards has been talking a lot to them here throughout the series. So your thoughts on the series and your thoughts on this call here?
I mean, this is why people love Anthony Edwards. It's because he's what we kind of remember basketball being, which is a lot of trash talk, a lot of bravado, and a lot of backing it up. And that's what he's doing. I think the unsung hero for Minnesota has been Julius Randle. I mean, he's averaging over 20 a game. He's definitely, I think he's still got some.
Playing some defense, too.
Yeah, I think he's got some little bit of animosity still with how he was treated when he was in L.A. He was part of that group that got pushed out. So I think this is his revenge tour, if you will, because he certainly has been playing way more consistent, a lot less, as my scouting buddies call, tour dates with the shooting. So I really like what Julius Randle's been doing, and I think he's giving the Minnesota Timberwolves some added shot in the arm to beat these guys. And the way that Anthony Edwards has just taken the challenge of going after LeBron, I think that's
you see him pushing him up the floor, that video of him pushing right in the chest, talking
it's incredible.
to him.
It's incredible.
Man, it's just, and again, depending on how you feel about LeBron, over the years, you got the haters, you got the lovers.
Yeah.
But would that be done to Michael Jordan as he was coming up the floor, or even Kobe Bryant as he was coming up the floor?
No.
It wouldn't.
It wouldn't be done to Grant Hill.
So is that just Anthony Edwards being Anthony Edwards, or is that just how LeBron's perceived now, over the years across the league?
I think, again, this is not, and people are going to, people get sensitive about LeBron. This isn't a LeBron thing. What this is this is sports at its finest. What you are seeing is the young lion telling the old lion, you need to go sit down in the pasture because this is mine now. I'm here.
Here's the push.
Coming
up the floor. I mean, he was full extension to be catching.
Like we want to give LeBron all the credit for going out there and competing at his age, and he gets that credit. He deserves it. But this is also the other side of it. He's dealing with a young lion who wants the smoke, and that's part of the thing that we love sports, and that's one of the things. It's not. I don't think it's a shade on LeBron. I think it's really just showing that at his age, I don't think he instills the fear that he once did. And I think these young guys, they're chomping at the bit to take the mantle.
And again, Lakers cooked in this one 3-1. We've seen it a few times.
Yeah,
Timberwolves most likely going to take this series the way it's looking. But again, we talked about the Lakers, and this is what I said, and I thought I'd come around before the playoffs, but I said this when they made the trade. They don't have the depth to go on a run. I didn't think, and then foolishly before the playoffs, I just thought maybe with the Luka and LeBron combo that maybe they could put it together, but the depth is showing. They got nobody inside. I think they scored.
Jackson Hayes is
They're
trash.
dominating them inside the paint.
Yeah,
and
Jackson
we thought
Hayes
about that.
is trash.
And it just goes to show, right? Because we sat up here at the end of the regular season when the Lakers were going on this nice stretch down the end of the season. The Timberwolves were one of the hottest teams to finish the year out. But the Lakers were playing very well with Jackson Hayes at center. It just goes to show you it's the regular season in the NBA, especially down the wire. You take it with a grain of salt. Because then you get into the playoff matchups, and I mean, they are just absolutely getting exposed in the paint. We thought it would be an issue, and it is in fact an issue. They've got no help on the underneath. Jackson Hayes is not built for this kind of scenario,
No.
and they're getting abused. The in the paint numbers are insanely in favor of Minnesota. You talked about Randall Edwards attacking and just dominating, getting downhill. It's going to be tough for LA. And again, you look at it, Luka hasn't been playing great. He hasn't been horrible, hasn't been bad. But again, he had the food poisoning on Friday, was throwing up during the game, and then on Sunday yesterday looked a little bit out of shape down the stretch. And again, you have to look at J.J. Redick. Nobody in the history have ever thought about, unless you're in Game 7 of the Finals, you're playing your guys a full second half with no breaks. I just thought that was crazy. Your thought on that scenario there, him playing?
I mean, this is why I didn't agree with J.J. Redick getting the job. I think it's one thing to comment on the sport. It's a whole other thing to go out there and do it. It's like watching Deadliest Catch and saying, oh, I could go out there and do that crabbing. It's different when you're on the ship and you're actually doing it. And that's what I'm saying about JJ. I think JJ is a smart guy. I just think he's one of those guys, he thinks he's too smart. He thinks he can out-intelligize everything. And you say, oh, I can use my intellect and I can get past it. Like, bro, sometimes it's about Jimmy and Joe's. It doesn't matter what you try to scheme. It doesn't matter who you got.
They got no depth.
They got no depth. So, I mean, you're playing Dorian Finney 40 minutes. Like, bro, there's no win for you right now, bro. This is just what it is.
LeBron's 41.
Yeah.
They got a 36-hour turnaround.
Correct.
He played the entire second half, and he had some great defensive plays down the stretch, but you saw them just wear down down the stretch of that game. I mean, LeBron and Luka just couldn't. I mean, if we had the clip, Luka literally went down and cost him the game, him going down. I know JJ wanted a trip, and the referees went back, and in the 2-minute report, here we go again, they said it should have been a foul. Right. I don't know if I agree with that one either, but we see some tripping every time it does get called. But to me, he looked tired. It looked like Vanderbilt was on top of him, and he could have been contacting the foul. But to me, it looked like he was gassed and just couldn't deal with him lunging on top of him and just went down. I don't know if we can find that clip, but the reason that and again, I will never, ever give Nico Harrison credit for anything he's done here in the last year or so. But Anthony Edwards right now looks like the top dog in this series. Yep. Not Luka, unfortunately, again, with what he hasn't been able to play himself back into shape as we've seen in other years. And I don't think he's going to be able to here this year.
No.
So we'll see what happens going forward. But Anthony Edwards has been the top dog in this series, and Timberwolves are going to get the series victory, it looks like.
Yeah, I think so.
Takes us now to the final one in Houston and Golden State. The Warriors get the 7 seed. Jimmy Butler's been hurt the last few games. The Rockets come in with a heck of a regular season in the West. They grab the 2nd seed out West. And coming into the series, Matthew, the Warriors were a slight favorite to win it. So that was the big thing, was how the Warriors were a 7 seed but favored because of those players, the veterans that have been there, that have done that before. The Rockets are here for the first time with Ime Udoka and that young squad. Well, Warriors now with a 2-1 lead, and it has been the Steph Curry show in this series. He has been fantastic. Jimmy Butler has not been needed yet, or I guess I can't say that. It's 2-1. Golden State back in action there tonight. But the Warriors looking good. Steph has been vintage. Your thoughts on the Rockets and the Warriors?
I mean, we talked about it last week, and I think maybe it was a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, our preview, playoff preview.
Yeah, playoff preview. Here's the problem. It's the guy that we all talked about, Jalen Green. When he's playing well, the Rockets.
He's done once.
He's only done it once in this series so far. He had 38 points. They won.
Yep.
If he doesn't get going, the Rockets don't have a weapon that matches off against what Curry does. Yeah, they have nobody that can compete with the points and get them in the way that Curry does. Green is the only person that they have. I would argue that Green is probably the best athlete on the floor when they play. They just, when he's not hitting, I think he scored 11 points the last game. Like, when he's not doing well, the Rockets aren't doing well.
Yeah. They don't have that offense. They were a defensive team built that way coming in under Ime Udoka. That was their calling card all regular season long, and it worked all regular season. They grabbed the 2 seed in the West. But coming into the playoffs, it is a different animal. And when you match up with a team like Golden State, you got to have some offensive firepower to keep up with them. You can't, and you're not going to be able to guard them up for a 7-game series and keep them, especially with Butler and Curry, to win that way. And that's just been proven. You thought they might have a chance coming in with that defense, et cetera. Again, it was a slight discrepancy in the odds with Golden State as a slight favorite, but as of right now, and again, it's only 2-1.
Right.
Houston though could win tonight, though, on the road, so it's a big game here at Golden State for the Warriors. So either the Warriors ever go 3-1, or we're going to be all tied here at 2-2. They're going to play tonight at 10 o'clock in Golden State. Warriors 3.5-point favorites. Who do you like in this one? You think the Warriors go up 3-1 here with a win at home, or do the Rockets tie this thing up?
I think the Rockets can get one more, but I can tell you this: Fred VanVleet got to wake the hell up.
Well, he's their only player, right? That's been there before.
I mean, he's shooting 26% in this series right now.
And he was the one. And to your point, he's the one guy that has the finals, victory, has a ring already,
right?
And hit big shots with the Raptors during that run. And he would have been, maybe you thought, the only guy that has that on his resume, that he would have to be the one to step up offensively.
For sure, he just hasn't.
He has not
performed not very good.
So you going with the Rockets tonight? Can even it up?
Yeah, I think the Rockets can. I think they're going to look for get Green going. I hope that Fred VanVleet can get out of this shooting slump he's in. If he can get out there and Green can make some shots, I think Rockets can pull a dub.
I'm going to go with the Warriors tonight just because it's at home, and they get Jimmy Butler back. We'll see. They won without him, so we'll see how they do with him back in the lineup. Pelvic contusion has missed the last 2 games, so I'll go them. Cavaliers and the Heat are underway right now. I think we both would have went with Cleveland heading in. They're up 41-14, and the first quarter is not over yet. 41-14. Miami's going to get swept out of round 1 here tonight.
So nasty.
So again, when we talked about it before, conference finals matchups here, you're going to have, I think, Boston and Cleveland are the 2 teams I think we have in the East.
Yep.
And then in the West, I think we differed. I had OKC and I don't remember.
Denver, I think.
Which I think is OKC's going to have Denver the next round. I had OKC, and I don't want to say if it was the Lakers or the Warriors who I went with, but I know I had OKC. Might have been the Lakers. I have to go back and check.
Yeah, I got to check myself.
But who do you think comes out of the West or gets to the Western Conference Finals?
Give me OKC.
And again, quickly, I know we're running out of time here on a Monday. OKC getting the winner of Denver and the Clippers. I think that's going to be a good series either way. I think the Clippers, if they are able to get past Denver, I think that's a good matchup there with LAC and OKC.
Yeah, I think
they could give them a run.
If I'm the Thunder, I would want the matchup with Denver.
I would too.
Yeah,
I think. Which is crazy to say because you never
crazy.
know. Jokic will be the best player on the floor in any series.
Exactly.
But we'll see that going forward. Minnesota, they're able to advance. If, hypothetically speaking, would get the Warriors or the Rockets, do you like Minnesota against either of those 2 tough teams?
If they can stay hot, yeah, I like that.
So Minnesota, and then you have a chance Minnesota can get. And I do want to say this, and we did this last year, right? Because Anthony Edwards and Minnesota did this last year in the first round.
Sure.
They beat the Lakers. They were underdogs going to the series, and Anthony Edwards dominated. Was it the Lakers in the first round? They were underdogs in the first round.
Nuggets, I think.
Phoenix.
That's right.
So they take them out, and then they get the first 2 big series win. Then they take out Denver, and everybody's all over them. And then they really laid an egg in that next series.
Yep.
So again, I love what Minnesota's doing. They look really good early on. Anthony Edwards is the best player on the floor. But again, let's let them do it for another series or 2 before we hop on this Timberwolves bandwagon, because I hopped on it last year and they came up short, right? So again, do you think this will be different? Do you think they're different this year? Anthony Edwards another year. Sometimes that can be the difference.
I think they're a little different. I think they got a little different attitude. I think Anthony.
So no Karl Anthony Towns. Yeah, Randall. That's
I think Karl Anthony Towns again. No shade to Karl Anthony Towns. Yes. I think he's not the same. I think taking him off the roster and adding Randall, I think, has given them a different level.
And Dante's been good too.
Correct.
Yeah, I'm with you. So again, NBA playoffs heating up. 2 teams with 2 games tonight. Cleveland will wrap up with them. They're up by 30 already. They're going to probably most likely win this unless we have a OKC comeback out of Miami. And then Warriors and the Rockets going to be a good one tonight at 10 o'clock. So the NBA playoffs heating up. We are wrapping up here on a Monday evening. Matthew, final words. Anything for everybody at home here? We've wrapped up the draft, and we are into the heart of the NBA playoffs and NHL as well.
NHL?
Yeah, right now. I know we rarely talk about our hockey here on the program. Maybe next week, but it is underway right now.
Oh, I didn't know that. How many brothers in the AHL now?
Is Simmons still out there? I don't know. We got a Subban retired, so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, listen. I think I saw that they've traced back who got Shador's number. It ended up being a Falcons assistant coach's kid.
Your opinion on that?
Yeah. So, look, I'll just say this. I think if I'm the Atlanta Falcons, and this may seem unfair, but as being somebody who works in an industry that this is actually beat into our head, and anybody who works in the financial sector, you know this, is confidentiality of really sensitive information. Like, in the financial industry, you can't even say a client's name in a conversation in a lunch line, because that can be grounds for dismissal. For this guy to have his iPad out and to leave it unprotected, and for his son to have the ability to go into that iPad, and he was in there for a while, because they said it wasn't like it was like on one page. He just was going through and searched and found the number. It's going to sound harsh, but I think they have to fire him. I really do. I think they have to fire the father. And that may sound like one of those things where it's not the person who did the crime, but he, whether people want to admit it or not, he helped do the crime, because he left sensitive information out that somebody in his house that he couldn't trust took it. And, again, I don't want to cast any aspersions on a kid that's 21 years old, but at 21 years old, I really don't want to call you a kid. That's number one.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
Number two, what is going through your mind and your heart that you want to go through? You want to find somebody's number, you want to mock them at their lowest point, and then cut them and pour salt in the wound of a situation that's already unfolding. Especially knowing that your father went through this process. Especially knowing that you have a future because your father went through this process. Like, this kid, everything this kid has in his life, he owes to football, professional football, to be clear.
Yeah.
So to do all of that, if I'm the Falcons, I'm firing the dad. Because, dude, you should have known not to have this information readily available. Now, I will say to you, I understand he didn't do it. But again, reverse it. Think of it the other way. What if it was an everyday industry that we all work in? What if it was financials? What if it was medical?
Medical, HIPAA.
What if HIPAA. What if it was one of them situations and your kid went through, grabbed your stuff, and made some prank calls on somebody's test results or something?
Oh, my God, yeah.
Yeah, you're getting fired. There's not going to be any, we're sorry that this happened. No, you're getting fired. You went and you shared information, or you let sensitive information be available to the general public. That goes against these certain laws, HIPAA laws, financial laws. This is very important. So, I'm sorry. Look, I know the Falcons are trying to be nice. I know the NFL is a fraternity. I'm not saying that the father deserves to be blacklisted or anything, but he should be fired, because this was a mistake. This was something that I know you didn't have a hand in, and I know people are going to say, well, if you didn't have a hand in it, why can't you go ahead and fire it? Because he should never had this available. I can guarantee you this. His son has done dumb stuff like this in the past. I can guarantee this isn't a one-off. We all are parents. We know our kids. We know which ones are the nutty ones. We know which ones are the crazy ones. We know which ones we can trust. When you're a parent, you know your kids. I can guarantee you this behavior isn't a one-off. This is something, this kid has probably done something kind of close to it. And I'm sorry, Jeff Ulbrich should pay the price.
And again, very well said. And to your point, right? He's 21 years old.
Right.
And I mean, it's not a 13-year-old teenager who picked up the phone and did a prank call. It's a 21-year-old college football player,
right,
who is perfectly grown up. His dad has been in the league for years now.
Right.
He knows, the league. He's not unaware of what that's going on. Again, this whole thing, it reeks of a 13-year-old or something like that. He's a 21-year-old college football player who, as you mentioned, has grown up in the NFL, in that league, at 21 years old. And then the Falcons issuing a statement, they will not, again, no punishment coming out, and them saying that he was unaware that his son did that. But I mean, even to me, when you think about it, I mean, as a dad, right? Like, is that the way? And again, I don't want to take shots at parenting or people doing anything like that, but for him to be a 21-year-old college player and to think that this was something that was either cool, funny, I don't know what he thought at the time.
Right.
But that kind of, to your point, and again, I don't know if it has to do with the football coach, but again, that reeks of something of Jeff Ulbrich. Like, that's on him. Like, that. I mean, I don't want to call him a bad parent or anything like that.
Of course.
But to have a 21-year-old son in college, it's a college football player, you think would have a good head on his shoulders.
Right.
To do something like that is just insane. And the more asinine part of it is for somebody to film it.
Yeah.
And to put it online. I mean, what are we doing? 21 or 13? This is, like I said, I mean, again, I think he should bear a little responsibility for, again, and again, parenting, I don't want to get into it, but for him to have been raised in a way that he would think that would be okay is alarming to me as well on both sides. So there's the football side and the parenting side of it. Yeah, just insane. Then he did issue an apology. I'm sure his dad, they had him issue that Instagram apology. But again, it was such a weird situation. Again, and the fact when I found he was 21 years old, I thought was just mind blowing.
Yeah.
And now we're seeing it come out that a lot of these players are getting prank calls throughout the process. And again, none to this extent, but just an insane weekend. And again, when I saw the video and found out who it was, just a little ridiculous. Yeah.
And for those out there that don't know this, just really quick. A lot of prospects, and in the case of Shedeur, they buy a phone specifically for the draft. So this isn't like they have
number only sent to coaches.
Numbers only sent to coaches, as Nick has said. So when you get when that phone rings, you know it's somebody from the NBA, NFL personnel that's contacting you. So I just wanted to put that out there in case people thought like, well, somebody could just prank call you because, they have your number. Like, no, they're not supposed to have your number.
Nope, they are not. Again, a very interesting situation there. And come on, I don't want to call you a kid, but you're 21. Come on, you got to be better.
Got to grow
than
up,
that.
man.
I mean, grow up. That was just a little insane there. And again, you watch the video, and again, you're thinking, man, these guys must be 13 or 12. But
got to be
21. So remarkable there for sure. And again, we're closing out here today, and we're not sure if Dennis did have a question for us as we wrap up, as we got our final word in there, but. We are going a little bit long here on a Monday, but we had a lot of stuff to get into, and here we go. Wow, coming in with the heat.
Yeah.
Now, I'm a little – I have on the record, and I've gone back in years and years, I'm one of Steph Curry's biggest fans. I had a chance to meet him back during his time at Davidson, and just over the years, I've been probably his biggest supporter out of all the guys in the NBA. So this is a tough one for me, Matthew, but – man, I do think it's closer than people think, in my opinion. But I'd love, again, for somebody that's been covering the NBA, for a while now. What is your view on that question?
So LeBron's in two eras. The early 2000s, he's got it. The second half is where he's in trouble. If you really think about it, he has the I think the biggest title of his career, which is Cleveland.
When he beat Steph.
And then the Lakers title, which no one really gives a lot of thought to. And yes, sorry to tell people, championships have legacy. Not all championships are equal. Like, for example, Dirk's one title is better than
LeBron's bubble title?
Bubble title. Easily.
I agree. Easily.
And sometimes it's because of the path of what you had to do to get that title. So a lot of that goes into it. So yes, championships have context, people. So yeah, I would say if we're being honest, I think the second half of LeBron's career, Curry has him.
I'm with you. Oh man, I'm glad. I thought we might get. I'm with you there, and I would love to get because again, how can you not like LeBron? What he stands for, what he has done for the years. I would love to get a big-time LeBron fan, and we're going to start cycling guests here with us every Monday. Yeah. I would love to get a LeBron fan to come up and have that conversation with us because I know they're fuming at home after hearing you say that one. But I'm with you. You talk about that run that Curry has been on since I think the first finals he reached was in 2015, right? That MVP season. Unbelievable there. Again, of course, you can bring up the finals matchups and you have some injuries there or not, but then you talk about the second stint, right? They thought they were done, and they're able to resurrect that core group with Clay and Draymond. And then they win another championship, beating the Celtics a few years ago. And then what we're seeing Steph do right now is unbelievable. And again, he's not quite to the age of what LeBron is. We're seeing him slow down the Olympics. I mean, those shots in the Olympics, and then what he's doing right now in this series against Houston. Again, they haven't had a lot of help like he used to have here in the last couple of years, and he's still been that damn good here in the back end. So again, if you talk about LeBron from, like you said, 05 to I guess 2013 would be either because that was his last year when the Heat beat the Spurs and those teams, which were also loaded at the time. And then you talk about 2014 to now, I think you have to go with Steph.
I think you have to. I don't know how you don't, honestly.
There you go. There you have it. We need some Bron fans because there's a lot of them out there to come have that conversation because I know you're at home just yelling at the TV screen.
And I'm not
right
even,
now.
here's the thing, I'm not even counting the KD titles because I just told you championships have context. I'm saying he's got 2 without KD. So he's got the one where they had to resurrect the core.
Yep.
He has Tyrone. He won with
the
Tyrone
first one.
Poole. Yeah.
The first one, too.
And the first one. So I'm just saying, like, the dude got a case, man. He just, like, look, I don't think it's crazy. To me, it's Curry in the second half.
I'm with you. Wow, what a way to end the show here. Curry, LeBron, he can have his time in the, his first decade or whatever, and Curry's got the last one. I'm with you there.
Yeah.
For Matthew and Dennis, we will see you next week. Again, Shedeur, 5th round of the Browns. We'll see how that pays off. But NBA playoffs continuing tonight with the Rockets and the Warriors. Check that out. And then we will be back next Monday to break down this whole week of playoff action and some more news in the NFL. So for Dennis, Matthew, and myself, we will see you right back here, same time next week.